Hey everybody, so Jon David had a 7 out of 10 day. Again, higher than the number, better. Would have been higher if he hadn't had some feed intolerance issues we had to figure out throughout the day, but overall, pretty good night. He passed his ERT, so we are still in a consecutive rhythm of passing those. He also was able to wean his morphine throughout the day from 225 to 175, which is a little over a 20% wean. And he had his ventilator tube retaped. They put him on paralytic, so actually they put his vent settings pretty high, because when he goes on paralytic, he gets paralyzed and isn't able to really breathe on his own. And so he spent pretty much the whole day weaning that back down to where it was as the paralytic wore off. Also, the word of the day is edema, which ties into all of this with the vent settings and lungs and things like that. Edema is where you have fluid building up in your lungs. And for heart kiddos, this happens quite a bit, primarily because the biggest way that you avoid edema is by peeing it off. And if y'all remember from a couple videos back, I was talking about how in the hierarchy of what gets blood, kidneys are really low down there. And so when our kiddos don't get the greatest perfusion to their kidneys, or the greatest blood flow to their kidneys, then they end up not peeing as much. They start keeping fluid. It's one of the reasons why they're really big on keeping the fluid balances here. And so when you have extra fluid that your body's keeping, especially for our kiddos, they like to store it in their lungs. And so then that becomes a problem, because then you have to go up on your vent settings. It makes it harder for them to breathe. And then it just creates this little vicious cycle. Luckily, Jon David has not had too bad of a problem with that. He was negative 1.2 liters for 3 days this past week. And then the last 2 days has been positive. It was positive 400. And then yesterday was positive 200. And so between those, he had some edema that kind of got in his lungs and got a little worse. But today he's about even and has been peeing things off. So he's been doing well. But again, that's edema. That's what that is. It's just fluid in the lungs. But he also had feed intolerance today, which we talked a little bit yesterday about feed intolerance being something that kind of presents similarly to withdrawals. However, they paused his feed today, and during the hour of the pausing of the feeds, he got so much better. And so they were like, yeah, this is definitely feed intolerance. So then we backed off a little bit. He was getting 27 milliliters per hour, so they backed up to 23 milliliters per hour. He did that for a while, and then this evening they backed off even a little bit more to 20 milliliters an hour and decided that they're going to do a slower advance. He was doing 3 milliliters every hour. 3 milliliters increase over every 8 hours. So after 8 hours, they would increase about 3 more. So if he was at 24, he'd go to 27, and then from 27 to 30, but every 8 hours. And for him, that's a pretty quick jump. He's never really gone that fast, so they put him back to 20, and they slowed it down to where he'll be doing 1 milliliter every 12 hours. So here in the morning around 10 o'clock, he'll go to 21 milliliters, and then 10 o'clock tomorrow night, 22, and work his way on up to his goal of 33 an hour. And that's pretty much been Jon David's day. So again, they pretty much spent the day kind of working out his feed intolerance, doing a little bit of a morphine wean, and then they should be doing some more weans here in a minute, as well as doing an ERT. And that's going to be essentially the summation of his day. Hunter had a great day at Myrtle Waves and went fishing with Mimi, and then cooked that fish and ate it for supper. And something that I forgot to say is that Jon David also got some holds today and got a visit from Grammy and Pop Pop. And then I went out with a buddy who's also a heart dad to Tobacco Road Sports Bar, which I've never been to, but was really, really good and enjoyed it. And it was just an overall pretty good day. Mallory came by and visited. She was supposed to hold, but then ended up holding. It takes a whole process here. It's not like you just get to pick your kid up with all the wires, and y'all will see in the pictures, and I'm sure y'all have seen in the pictures, that it's a whole production, as you can imagine, to be able to hold them. And so I'd already held him for about 2 hours, and then it is also stressful on them to be held. They enjoy it, as you'll see in the pictures. He loved it. His vitals loved it, at least for a good little while, but after about 2 hours, he was getting kind of intolerant of his feeds. He was just kind of getting upset. Heart rate was going up, and blood pressure was going up, and he was getting very agitated. And so put him back in the bed, and that helped solve quite a bit of those problems. But if y'all would pray for these 3 things: one, that he will tolerate feeds as well as his conversions and his weans, because that's kind of the key of us moving forward. He's got to tolerate those things in order for us to get off the vent and also to get him over into step down. 2, if you'll pray for any family that's lost anybody, any loved one, but especially families that have lost a child. And then 3, all the kids and families up here who are battling congenital heart defects, because again, this is not an easy road for anybody in any way, shape, or form. And I did want to share a little praise here at the end, is that he has been pooping and peeing, which I know we've talked about that extensively over the last 2 weeks. And I know that most people are like, that is a lot of focus on one kid pooping and peeing. But really and truly, that is kind of the key to all this stuff, is we need him to poop and pee. And if he does those, then his feed intolerance isn't as bad, and the edema isn't as bad, because if he's peeing, he's getting that fluid off, and if he's pooping, he's making more room for more feed, and then everything just keeps moving. And so if he's doing those things, we celebrate them when they happen. Like the doctor actually tonight, they gave him a laxative, and he came by after he had pooped and was like, he pooped! And I'm like, yes, he pooped. Like, we all celebrate that around here. But thank y'all for all of your prayers. Thank you for all your support. While I was editing, I forgot that I did not put this in here. Jon David was awake for a good part of the afternoon and was a very happy baby. And I didn't get the best smiles that he had, but I got a couple of the little smiles that he had on camera. As well as Mr. Daniel, who Hunter went with, Miss Danielle, Mr. Daniel, and Gatlin to Myrtle Waves, was setting Hunter up for some very expensive tasting boats. Hunter apparently is now asking for me to get a $60,000 boat, which will not be happening, at least not right now. We have a John boat. We'll go on a John boat when we get time. We got to get time first. But figured I would clarify those because I forgot. Y'all have a good night and God bless, and continue to choose up daily.
Hunter, tell your daddy this is the boat you want. Tell him you like this one too. Hold on.
Let's buy it, Daddy.
Let's buy it, Daddy. Let's buy it, Daddy. I see him, buddy.
And Jon David, gotta ride bye-bye.